Well, I am back very quickly, I might add. Look, I really wanted to do this. Better yet, I feel like I really needed to do this. This is Sandra R. Blythe. I'm with Robnick Enterprise, and this is Reaching Our Best with Robnick Enterprise. Happy Father's Day to all of the fathers, and I wish you a enjoyable day. So you see behind me this handsome man who is my father, who is now deceased. And what I'm talking about is dads are not always perfect, but they can be present. I want to share a couple things with you, and I'll make it brief. Again, I acknowledge this is Father's Day, and we have folks who are spending time with family, but I really wanted to bring you this message for a couple of reasons. I want to encourage you, I want to inspire you, and I want you to potentially do some self-assessment about this thing we call parenting and relationships between fathers and children, not just fathers and sons, fathers and children. Let me start here. I said dads are not always perfect, but they can be present. What is so important is that kids need their parents. They need their mother and they need their father. One of the mistakes that I see made over and over is that when parents are not in alignment, when there's dissension, when there's disgruntlement, maybe they've divorced, maybe they've never been married, but when that relationship is unhealthy, somehow, some way, unfortunately, the kids are in the middle. The mother doesn't want the father to see the kids. The mother is talking badly about the father. The mother is sharing negative things about the father. The mother is painting the picture for the children so that they live under the umbrella of her perspective, her perception, her feelings, her emotions of that father. Now, let me preface this. I'm not saying that what the mother is saying is not real. It didn't happen. He didn't do, he did do. I'm not challenging any of that, nor am I debating that. Where I really want to take us is that we need to allow our children to build their own relationship with their dad. And we have to put aside our disgruntlement, our emotions, our disappointment, all of those things. We have to put that to the side because at the end of the day, let's be clear. What you feel about the father, that's the relationship and an experience that you had. And you have a right to feel what you feel. But you have to be very careful that you are not robbing your children of a relationship with their dad because of how you feel, because of the experience you had. And you don't want to pass on your experience to your children and it blocks them from having a relationship with their father. Yes, every father is not great. There are deadbeat dads. We understand those things. But I believe wholeheartedly we have moments when we are doing our children a disservice because we're creating a space or we're building a space for them to feel what we feel, see the Father as we see the Father, treat the Father as we treat the Father, and thereby they do not have a relationship. And if they do, it's very unhealthy because of all the stuff we gave them about our stuff. Children can't handle your stuff. Whatever your stuff is with that, with the dad, that's your stuff, not their monkey, not their circus. So we really have to be intentional to allow fathers and children to have their own relationship, regardless of how we feel about that individual. Now, let me say this. There are extenuating circumstances where that may not be wise. It may not be healthy. We may be dealing with a man who is violent. We may be dealing with a man who is a drug addict and cannot be controlled or cannot have control of his behavior. Those are things that we get, we understand. Those are extenuating circumstances. However, there are situations where that does not exist. And again, we have to come back to we're pushing our emotions, our experience, our disgruntlement, our dissatisfaction, our disappointment. We're pushing it off to the children, and thus the children have no relationship or they have an unhealthy relationship with their father. Not their monkey, not their circus. That's your stuff. Let your stuff be your stuff. Let your children judge their dad on their own merit, not on yours. Because at the end of the day, the father is an important person in a child's life. Regardless of, again, regardless of what your experience is with that person, let that be your stuff. But let that child have an opportunity to receive and embrace and accept their dad being present. Dads, it's not always about money. It's not always about gifts. It's not always about stuff and things. Children need your time and your attention. And that is something that is priceless, is invaluable, and there's no amount of money, no amount of gifts that will replace your presence. I like to say when you're present, show up. It's one thing to be present. It's another thing to show up. So when you're present with your child, make sure that you're showing up. I really think this is important. I really do. We cannot continue to position our children to see their dads through our eyes, through our eyes of the bad experiences we may or may not have had, the things that did or didn't get done. Let that child have the liberty and the opportunity to build their own relationship with their dad. As long as that man is not doing anything that's detrimental, as we said earlier, maybe he's a violent person, maybe he's a drug addict, things of that nature. So, but we're not talking about that. Let's stay focused. That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a person who just has issues with the father of their child, and because they have issues with their father's child, they create a space where they don't want the child to have a relationship with that person. And that is so unfair. And trust and believe when we do that, there are consequences. There are consequences because at some point that child is going to learn more and more about their dad that doesn't quite look like the story and the narrative you've given. And when they arrive at that point, guess who has to answer? You do. And it may change the whole dynamic of the relationship you've had or wanted with your child because you've spent so much time and energy downplaying their dad, keeping them away from their dad, making issues because of how you feel. I am asking you ladies today, if this is you, own it, assess it, change it. Because trust me when I say nothing good can come out of this. We only have one dad, regardless of what he does, who he is, how he's been, regardless of the description. We only have one dad. And we cannot deprive children of their dad because of our own personal feelings. We have to learn how to set those aside and give our children an opportunity to build a relationship with their father. If on their own merit, the relationship doesn't work, that's a different conversation. But when it's not working because we're influencing based on our own bitterness, our own anger, our own disappointment, that's not good. I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer today. I really want to encourage us to create spaces and places for children and their dads to be healthy in their relationships. And moms, you got to step up to the plate. You got to compartmentalize. You got to make sure that your issue isn't your children's issue and that you're not using your kids to get back at the dad. Yeah, all that, that's a big no. And again, there are consequences to that type of behavior. There's consequences to that type of relationship. There really is. Dads are not perfect. Dads don't always do the right thing. Moms are not always perfect. Moms don't always do the right thing. And when we want grace and mercy for our behavior, for our missteps as moms, we need to be willing to extend that same grace and mercy to the dads. I'm not taking sides on this. I'm just trying to bring some perspective. I'm just trying to bring some food for thought. I'm just trying to position families that may not be together to learn how to exist without dissension, without disgruntlement, without words of weapons, but learn how to encourage one another to do the best they can do. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. I'll share this last piece with you and then I will end this. My mother and father did not stay together. After 20 some years, it ended. My mother never, ever got in front of me to tell me all the bad things about my dad. She never tried to influence me not to like my dad. She didn't badmouth my dad to me so that I could share in her experience of disappointment. She didn't do it. You know what my mother did? She did the exact opposite. My mother encouraged me to stay in touch with my father, to visit my father, to have a relationship with my father. And she didn't do that because they had had a great relationship. You know why my mother did that? Because it was the right thing to do. My mother did that because she understood that whatever she felt about my dad, that was her monkey, that was her circus, and that was her cross. And it had nothing to do with me. And she gave me the liberty in the room to form my own opinion, my own feelings about my dad. And I love my mother for that. And that's why I am so adamant, even now in my life, to get online and post this and say, let's not do this. Separate your issues from the issues that your children genuinely have with their dad. But don't make your issues your child's issues because they're not and they never should be. When we all can grow and develop to this point, the world will look much different. The world will have less chaos. There'll be less disgruntlement because we're learning how to work together. I hope fathers have a great Father's Day. I hope you all have listened and I love you. That's why I'm saying this. I'm not saying this to make any mother feel bad. I'm not trying to beat anybody up. I'm not trying to judge anybody. I just want people to live a healthy life mentally and emotionally. And sometimes we have to take those shackles off. Sometimes we have to forgive people and move forward. Enjoy the rest of your day. This is Sandra Blythe, and I'll leave you with be courageous enough to be present in the truth. Until next time.